I'm McMillan. I'm from the University of Glasgow. I'm a Matthew's PhD student. And when submitting my abstract for this talk last week, I was also submitting my PhD the same week, so I didn't actually put a title on. And instead it thankfully made me a title, which matches what I'm going to talk about. But I also thought to talk about a bit more of the practical aspects, thinking that here will be PhD students who are going to want to maybe use these large-scale mobile trials in the course of their research and cover the ways in which people have done this before and how they can follow in their footsteps and actually use them productively in their research. So, yeah, how about that for a better title? Should I bother to run a large-scale mobile trial? Well, there are a few different types of mobile trial that we've identified. One of them is the generously include some things in here called exploratory mobile trials. Now, being generous, I'll include the people who run some software and make an application, trial it locally, and then dump it on the App Store or the marketplace and say, look, at the end of the paper. Other people have gone a bit further. This is the key to nature. So, and I wish I came up with this idea. I'm very jealous of them. They made 5 different applications which helped you identify plants. And their differences were in the geographical location they covered. So they went from countries, Sweden and Czechoslovakia, I think, to regions in Italy, to just a single botanical garden. And then they released them all different price points to see what people would pay for. And they found out that people don't pay for small locations, but for a whole country, they're happy to pay €10 700 times a week. That's a great idea for research. Why not do that? That's the exploratory style, is to look at what happens when you release and the mechanisms for release. So that's one way you can go, but if you're trying to put large scale into your research and not researching about large scale, this probably isn't the way to do it. The next thing you can use large scale trials for is to collect data you wouldn't be able to collect normally. So this can be things like citizen science, where you have people take pictures of potholes, for example. Or you can log in the background of another application. Some people have put location logging into banking applications and use them to see what the accuracy is like for different location techniques and different hardware. This is another type. You can use games with byproducts. And I've put the picture of game with byproducts because they get better pictures. This is a game called Product Empire. And in order to get your castle bigger, you had to scan the barcode of products, take pictures, and write a description. And you also had to verify other people's descriptions. Now this gave them a big corpus of barcodes and names and pictures, which they then used in a separate system to allow people to put reviews and comments on things in the supermarket just by scanning a barcode without having to type in stuff. That's something you could use if you're looking to get different types of data that you can't get easily otherwise. That's another use for large scale. The next one is sort of taking a more traditional experiment and putting that out to a lot of users. So this is Hit It. This is an application where a little game where you had to press the shapes as quickly as you could. And that was released in the Android marketplace. Had lots and lots and lots of users. And they actually used this to give 6 experiments to the end users. The first one was the one you would expect by looking at it. They saw where and what sizes of targets gave better accuracy. What they're able to do though, is with the large numbers of users, was to define correction matrix for the screens and different types of handset and put that back out and found out and got an improvement in accuracy. They also, those are my presenter notes, I can't think of them. But they did things like checking what time it was best to release on the store, and they checked the validity of Fitts law for mobile screens and decided that it didn't match their data. But what they had to worry about was that the data you get from this sort of trials is very noisy, because you don't know if someone's dropped their phone, or they've put it down to have a cup of tea, or they've reached their bus stop. You can't tell, you can't have any validity in the situation. So you need a lot of data to even out the noise. To get enough data, they had to discount 45 out of the 48 phone and operating system configurations that they saw on the store. This is over 1 million touch points they got, 10 million touch points they collected. So they had to discard a huge number of their data because they didn't have enough of that set type to get valid results. So that's another way you can push your experiments out. This one is sort of informative use of large-scale trials. This is Mogi, one of the original large-scale user trials. It was done in Japan way back in 2006, I think. And this is on a feature phone. And they had it's a location-based game. People paid 200 yen a month to play. And just released with the other applications they had on the carrier store. And what's interesting about this is they used their thousands of users and used them to inform who to bring into a normal 10-person user study. So they looked at the demographic spread and the use statistics and said, okay, well, we'll take these 10 people and done a normal study to get their qualitative data. But they didn't really dig into the data they got from the thousands of users other than that. So you can use it to inform as well. And now we're going to go into stuff we've done in time. Yeah, okay. This is Hungry Yoshi, as you've seen before. I'll skip over it. The main point here is that in order to get people more engaged in the process and to give us more qualitative data to explain the quantitative data we're collecting, we added this. It's a little gambling machine. You can drop your fruit in and you get another fruit out, which is fair enough. But in order to do that, you had to answer questions given by us. So it incentivized purely with the game mechanics for people to answer free text or drop-down box questions based on what we were seeing in the data. So we used this to bring them into the design process. This is why we call this mass participation, because they participated in the redesign of the software. I don't have time to go into the details of the application, but there's a new feature which allowed them to empty a plantation and put new fruit in a plantation. Now, in order to get this feature released to the public, we took a request from a user that said, oh, I have this idea, can you make this? So we thought, oh, it's a good idea, and gave the public 3 options, and using this task mechanism to say, okay, do you want to stay the same, or do you want these 2 versions of the software? Took the most popular one, released it, and then asked again to keep the design process and kept the people in the loop. What we did afterwards is we also got directly in contact with the person who proposed the new design, but that's proved very difficult. It's actually really, really difficult to get direct contact to our people. It started quite easily. We were able to get interviews quite quickly, but as the really engaged users were used up, it became more and more difficult to get the really rich qualitative data that you can get from an interview. So we moved on to a third type of trial. This is a simple predict the score game we released alongside the World Cup. And in this trial, in order to overcome the problems of finding it really difficult to get the rich qualitative interview data, we ran 2 trials simultaneously. We took 10 local participants as well as the global user group and used them to inform on each other. So I'll just go through some of the things we found very quickly. So we call these hybrid mass participation trials because you have the mass user base who are participating and you also have your local group. So you can use the large to verify the small. The point of World Cup Predictor was to check the spread of manics, and we chose the local user group to have groups of friends, a couple of couples, and some single people, and to see if they would do manic sharing around. And we also released it to the global group. Unfortunately, we found that although the local group gave us 73% uptake on the head-to-head feature. The global group only gave us 0.8%, so it was completely skewed, just because we had this social topography. Also, the number of head-to-heads per person who did it was completely different than the local group, about 5.3, the global group 1.5. And that could have led us to write a paper saying, oh man, it's fantastic, everyone uses them, 72% of users. You can do anything you like. So that's one way we can use it, to verify what we find in the small. Also, the other way though, we can use the small to explain the large. There was a strange pattern we saw in the data where people were only predicting the first 5 matches in a round. So we thought people were just bored or didn't bother, until we noticed one of our local participants doing the same thing and talked to them. And they told us that they didn't know you could scroll down. So we put a quick update out, a pop-up box saying, oh, you can scroll down, you've not predicted everything. And that fixed it. So that allowed us to find something in the data and quickly go to a local participant group and find out what was going on. And yeah, first matches. And yeah, as mentioned before, you can't really rely on specific social structures to be present in your user groups. We assumed people doing a sort of social competitive prediction game where you got a huge bonus in points for doing head-to-heads because we're trying to push the manets would find people in the local group to do these predictions with, but it just wasn't the case. So if your research needs a certain social topography, it's better to do it with a local group. Yeah. And I'll just skip over the ethics part because I'm already over time. It allows us to have a more ethical means of engagement with users. With the Yoshi trial, we found that when we called people up, they didn't know that they weren't part of a user trial to begin with. And of course we asked, we put a task and said, do you know you're part of a user trial? And they all said, oh yeah, of course I do. I read the terms and conditions, yeah. But there are lots of, the FAST study shows that 73% of people don't even pretend to read terms and conditions. And really probably a lot higher percentages than that. By using the mass participation by hybrid trials, you have a group of participants who you have spoken to, you've made sure that they understand what it means to be a trial participant, what data you're going to collect from them, and what types of analysis they're going to be subjected to. So you can just use aggregate data from the mass participation group, from the big group, and not actually invade their privacy as much as you would have to if you were wanting to get the same detailed use data from them as you do from your locals. And that is me over time. So I'll leave any questions to the discussion group. So if you want to talk to me about any more of these, discussion group.